This revolution is not going away.
This is the Ron Paul Liberty Report with Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, and Chris Rossini.
We are all ambassadors of the Ron Paul doctrine, and it's so simple. Just tell the truth.
An idea whose time has come and cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Daniel McAdams, our co-host. Daniel, good to see you this morning.
Good morning, Dr. Paul. How are you this morning?
Well, we have lots of things to talk about,
We do.
but the world keeps going round and round. Same old stuff. And picking out the most dangerous things, that's always difficult. Sometimes the most dangerous thing is being hid someplace, and then there's always this pretense and distraction. But we have some quotes from Trump that sort of aggravates me, irritates me, and yet I think they're starting to have a negative effect on the American people. So that we'll deal with a little bit, and there's another poll that shows that Trump isn't sky high on the polling, and he isn't. Well, I don't know what they call him now. You know, people say ordinarily he's a lame duck, but I find this interesting because Donald Trump is never going to be a lame duck.
Yeah.
So what's he going to be up to? And maybe he has an additional plan. I sort of suspect that he's had plans all his life, and he's not the kind. And he has the energy, and it looks like he has good health. So we will be hearing from him, but there's a lot of disagreement going on there because they're not. The American people are getting a little tired, but there's a lot of other people getting tired of them. Sometimes it's our allies, overseas, and the support of war. But there's a lot of reason for people to be annoyed, and sometimes the presidents get blamed for more than they should be blamed for. But in this case, I think it's always been easy, but it'll be very easy when things get worse, conditions get worse, whether it's the war or the economy. He's going to be vulnerable, and I think that's what we're seeing now. But before we start into that, Daniel, I want to mention there's a vote on tonight, NDAA.
Yes.
We've talked about it, and we've had programs on it, and there's been a lot been in the news. It's not just our organization have tried to make this point of integrating the U.S. military technology with Israelis. And there's a lot of big debate. That debate's been there. But I guess if anybody has access or feel have some way of expressing their opinion with their congressman, maybe there's somebody on the line. But this is a big vote because it's new and it's different. It's negative. It goes against our sovereignty. We can think up a lot of reasons why we shouldn't even be thinking about this, and it sort of destroys the whole notion of individual national sovereignty. They've already accomplished the disintegration of the principle that states were more to be like single countries that are voluntarily banded together. That has changed a lot. But also this whole thing that we have relationship with other countries, but we're not supposed to tell them everything we do because there's lots of reasons for national security that depend on, not doing these kind of agreement. So that's going to be a vote. A lot of people will be watching that vote today.
Yeah, and we don't usually endorse legislation, but or oppose it, but really people should, as you say, Dr. Paul, connect with their representatives in the U.S. House and tell them to vote against the NDAA because we don't want this. We don't want to, as you say, we don't want to integrate our military with any other country. It should be to defend the United States. That's it, full stop. So this is a really bad move. And I was going to put a clip, I forgot, but Thomas Massey, he did put in an amendment to try to get that language taken out. And our wonderful Democratic House of Representatives said, no way, you can't even have a vote. They wouldn't even allow them to have a recorded vote on whether to pull this language out. So it's stuck there in the bill. That bill should fail. Hopefully it does fail. So
Okay, and let's talk a little bit about Trumpism.
Yeah.
And Zero Hedge, they provide a lot of information that we analyze frequently. But there's a headline today: Trump vows U.S. will destroy a bridge or power plant for each Iranian attack on shipping. And my first thought was, is that going to end the war sooner, or is this going to make things worse?
Yeah.
And I think I vote for the second part, that things doing this is, it's just an antagonism. The big question that should be followed up and should be answered with truth, and that is, who started this darn war anyway? And how is it going to end if there's this type of escalation? You know, they pretend they're having peace talks, but that's usually a pretense. Turns out that our thoughts on that was that maybe they just need a rest to refurbish their weapons. There's a lot of that done.
Yeah.
But it is a mess, and yet that one isn't going to go away today. We may have a vote to NDAA, but I'll tell you what, this whole mess over there with Iran is not going to go away. This is an escalation, and it's always to me it's driven by just pure vengeance, not to save their people, because it's almost a trade-off that we're going to bomb you even more if you do this. And a lot of people refer to what the Iranians are doing as defensive. I mean, where have the troops come from? They travel thousands of miles there just to cause trouble. So the motivation has to be more vengeance than saying we're protecting American citizens, because it looks like the American citizens are involved. They have to pay the bill.
They have to pay in many ways, unfortunately. Put up that first clip. Now, this smacks of desperation. Trump's vows the U.S. will destroy a bridge or power plant for each Iranian attack on shipping. Now, breaking this apart a little bit, breaking it down. So why is Iran attacking shipping in the Hormuz Strait? Is it because it just likes shooting missiles at ships? No. It's because in violation of Article 5 of the Memorandum of Understanding, the U.S. decided to open up a separate corridor closer to Oman in the Hormuz Strait and control it itself, whereas a memorandum signed by President Trump himself said that Iran will have control over the shipping in the Strait. They will coordinate, that's the word it used, the shipping in the Strait. Not Iran with the U.S., not Iran with Oman, but Iran would coordinate. The U.S. said, well, we're going to test that. We're going to send the ships through with our own escorts. And so Iran has shot missiles at them. But again, it smacks of desperation. This was supposed to be, a couple-week war? We were assured that Iran would be just like Venezuela. They would come out with their hands up. Well, that certainly hasn't happened. Now we're back in full war with Iran. But the other thing is, it's also advertising war crimes. He's telegraphing that he will be committing war crimes because attacks on civilian bridges, attacks on civilian power plants are considered war crimes, and it shouldn't be done. The intention is to punish the population enough so that they rise up and overthrow their government. Well, as we all know, that has never happened in history. It doesn't happen. All it does is make life miserable for the civilians who are going to suffer because of these bombings. And if you look at what Iran has bombed in the region, they have bombed military facilities only. I'm not saying the Iranians are angels, but they have kept their bombing to military facilities, whereas Trump has already destroyed bridges. He's destroyed a couple of desalination plants in Iran, et cetera, et cetera. So there is really there's a big disparity in this targeting.
You know, it seems like there is a group of people who have authority, have accepted the notion that it's a good idea to have permanent war in order to achieve permanent peace on their terms. And I was just thinking, you know, let's say those people that are working with the U.S. government and Israel, what if they have a token amount of success? Let's say they get, they're able to destroy the Iranians enough where, you know, foreign powers come in and take total control of the strait, and then maybe this will spread to other parts of the country. But even if they were doing that, and it looks like what I get concerned about is sometimes this evil is celebrated.
Yeah.
You know, if they could say, see, all those people said we shouldn't do this. We're collecting $10 million. No, it's more than that. We're going to run this like a business, and we're going to collect money, and this is going to be just wonderful. Before the Iranians had no right to take monopoly control of the strait. So in a way, probably one of the dangerous things, if there was a token victory where this militancy, succeed, I don't think for a minute that's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, that's not going to happen, because there's going to be a climactic end to this, and it's getting set to do that, both economically, even oil prices, and all these things, our economy at home, and all this fighting, and who's on whose side.
Yeah.
They're shifting because who's bombing whom and who's joining. And right now, Israel's is sounding out, a pretty soft sign. We sort of want to stay out of this. We don't want to have anything to do with this.
You guys fight. We'll sit back. Yeah, exactly. I'm just looking at Brent. It's 93.42, up 2.65% today. So, yeah, you're right. Oil is going up. Gas is going up. Diesel is going up. But go back to this article now. This is Trump again. I think I would call it desperation. This comes a day after he unveiled U.S. military plans to conduct a large bombing of Iran's Pickaxe Mountain nuclear complex. Now go to the next one here. It says Truth Social. No, sorry, right there. Thanks. This is what he said. From this point forward, any time the Islamic Republic of Iran shoots at a ship in the Strait of Hormuz, whether it be by a missile, rocket, drone, or any other device or weapon, the United States will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including those located next to or in the capital city of Tehran. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. If he's ever in The Hague, this will be Exhibit A for admitting that you're about to commit a war crime. But now, go to the next one. Now, Zero Hedge makes a good point, though. So they say, but the Iranians have already long demonstrated they won't alter course in the face of such threats, especially bluster from Trump over social media. And so this is unlikely to be any kind of a fix for Washington, as Tehran has vowed to keep control of Hormuz at all costs. The Pentagon has argued that things like bridges are dual use, and as the Iranian military uses them to get supplies from one to another, while international monitors have highlighted the potential for war crimes. Now, the Pickaxe Mountain is another thing, Dr. Paul, which is important, that he's threatening to blow up this mountain. I don't know how he's going to do it, because this stuff is buried underground 100 meters, however much. Go to that next one. This is a big deal, because President Trump was asked yesterday about Pickaxe Mountain, and he said, we're going to be hitting that pretty soon, too. This is from Hedge on the same article. There's been a lot of sudden focus on Pickaxe Mountain, though it has largely been absent from all prior media coverage of the war due to Israeli intelligence feeding it to the U.S. mainstream press. Quote, Israeli intelligence believes Iran moved thousands of uranium enrichment centrifuges into tunnels deep inside a mountain last fall. Israeli and U.S. officials say a development that would heighten concerns that Tehran could reconstitute its nuclear program. So here we have it again, Dr. Paul. The Israeli intelligence lied to President Trump on January 11th, saying that the Iranians were building nuclear weapons, and Trump foolishly decided to go in. They were wrong, completely wrong, but they're back at it again. As you mentioned, Smotrich said yesterday, hey, this is a good arrangement. You guys do the fighting and dying, and we stay here and reap the benefits. That's exactly what's happening. They keep passing these, they're almost like puppeteers. They're passing these little things on to the U.S. media. Oh, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing this. And it's the panic of the day, and that's what we're seeing here.
There's a statement that floated around, and some of the people in the media have made lists of items that fit into this category of Trump saying, "I don't care. I don't care about this. I don't care about the all." Some of it looks like it's taken out of context. Nobody could be so blunt, but I think that he does. His image is that I don't care about that. What I care about this. So I started asking myself, I wonder what he really cares about, because he has cares. He goes off and he does things, so he cares about them. But I thought, what is the category? And we're always looking for people who care for peace, and nonviolence and non-intervention foreign policy. That's what we really care about. But I noticed that the things that he cares about, but he's not alone. This is the way politics work. They care about certain things. Sometimes they're even benign social events, but most of the time it's militarism or trade or something that they really care about. But it always involves authoritarianism. I care about this. And if you notice some of the things that the president advocates, he really cares, but it has to be used by more government violence. But the government is very violent. So just because they care about that, but I think it's interesting that a list comes up in the midst of this knowledge that you can't possibly not care for everybody, and a little bit of political authoritarianism and a little bit of good politicking, we can take care of people. Yeah. But no, he says, I don't care about things that people do care about. So it sounds like if you were giving advice to a newly designed politician just getting there, you got to care for the people. Yeah. And I would say that what we talk about, I hope we fit into that category. We really do care about the people when you care about personal liberty.
Absolutely. Well, on this Pickaxe Mountain deal, if you go to the next one, this is Brent Erickson. He's a political risk analyst, and he's a good follow, I would say, on X, by the way. But he chimes in about this whole Trump saying, I'm going to blow up this mountain because the Israelis told me that there was nuclear stuff inside of it. Anyway, he says Pickaxe Mountain has been in the headlines constantly over the last 48 hours. But I have to ask, and actually you just said this, who cares? At the most high-level overview, there is zero consensus whatsoever that the U.S. can do anything that actually destroys Pickaxe Mountain. In fact, I think the broad consensus that does exist highlights we can probably temporarily collapse entrances, but destroy it? It was literally built specifically to ensure that it cannot be destroyed by the United States. Now go to that next one. But okay, he says, let's assume that Trump does destroy it. So what? And this is such an important point, Dr. Paul. This doesn't permanently neuter Iran's ability to secure a nuclear weapon in the future. It doesn't eliminate their highly enriched uranium. And they would also certainly begin to sprint for the bomb, given the events that have taken place over the last several months. Continuing on that theme, Dr. Paul, of so what if he does blow it up? Brett says, beyond this, though, it doesn't magically reopen the Strait of Hormuz. It doesn't magically topple the regime. It's an entirely hollow victory that leaves Trump in the exact position where he was before, where he needs to make a deeply embarrassing deal with the Iranians. So I think that's a good point. This is the shiny object that's being floated out there by the media. But so what if he bombs it? So what if he blows up the mountain, flattens the mountain? It's not going to change anything.
Sometimes I think they live in the past. Yeah. Like they say, well, we could take Iran a couple days, couple weeks. We did that in Venezuela. We can do this, whatever we want to do. But if you look at it, the Iranians have they have a long history, But the recent history of the last, now it's getting close to 100 years. What about what happened in 1953? Yeah. Big thing. The Iranians were pushed Iran by us and Britain, Great Britain, and that's still a smolder. And then in 1978, with the hostage situation, which was a defensive movement, really in part because somebody was occupying their country. Yeah. So those occur, but now I think they're dealing with a government that's a lot different, and the preparations are a lot different than they were in 1953. I mean, that was an overnight deal. You know, that was it. They had an elected president in there that was much more reasonable, and they got rid of him, and they put we then installed somebody else. But today, that's not going to happen. I think because they have weapons, and when you talk about they're bombing outside, we'll just dig our holes deeper. Yeah. And they say we'll blow up the mountain. And how is that going to help anybody? Who's going to be really helped? And you were sort of mocking it too. What's the difference if they blow up such and such? But I think the one thing that people should pay attention to do is who started it? How did it happen? Would it have happened if there was no collusion between Israel and the United States? And I think that has a lot to do with it. But right now, I think that our side, if it's our side, at least our allies and our government, I don't think they realize what they're dealing with. And they're dealing with somebody with a homeland. How long have these wars lasted? When we misunderstood with Vietnam. Yeah. Vietnam. How about the Middle East war? What about Afghanistan? How much do we have to lose? How many people do we have to kill? How many of our soldiers have to die for this? And yet here we are, right in the middle of this climactic end to the current policy that we invented a long time ago, but we amplified because in the last year we said it's different now. And as soon as we take care of this, we're going to deal with, with the Chinese.
Yeah. Good luck. Well, it seems like Trump is searching for a magic button to push to win the war. And that doesn't exist. In fact, it's getting worse and worse for him, and taking down the mountain, shooting down some bridges, that's not going to change the political landscape in the region because that landscape has already been changed by Iran itself. And I have a couple of posts, a couple of clips that show that, I think, very well. That first one, this is Will Scriver, who you've heard me talk about him before. Will is a great follow on X. And he's pointing out that the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar is now completely empty, as seen on Sentinel Satellite 2 imagery as of the 22nd. And Will says, Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, the largest U.S. base in the Persian Gulf region, has been completely evacuated. All U.S. bases in the region are effectively indefensible against Iranian drone and missile strikes. Most tankers and fighters have moved far west to Jordan and Israel. And he has another post. If you go to that next one, this happened, I think it was yesterday. Iran scored another precise strike against an American long-range early warning radar at the Ahmad al-Jabir Air Base in Kuwait. Once again, U.S. radar capability in the region has been severely crippled. Missile and drone strikes are arriving without warning. And on the right, you can see that long-range radar. And on the left, you can see a precision bomb blew it up. So even if you do take out bridges, this is the reality here. This is what's being taken out. The military eyes and ears of the United States. And unfortunately, another truth on the ground, if you do that first video, we don't necessarily have to have sound for that, but let's watch that first video. Unfortunately, very sadly, this is also facts on the ground that are taking place. This young woman on the right, they just identified, 28-year-old woman. She was also killed in the hit on.
You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon. So we're going to honor them.
They're both playing at the same time. Cut the second one and put the first one on.
To honor our heroes.
The Trump one is going.
Great heroes, excellent.
So yeah, I don't know why. Yeah, stop him.
Well,
yeah, and go to that first one. There we go. Now this is the rewind it. Okay, this is the young woman who was killed in Jordan, and unfortunately, this is the strike right there on the base that killed her and her comrades in arms. Horrible, horrible, horrible thing. And you can be angry at the Iranians, but you should be more angry with our own government for putting young men and women into positions like this.
See, this involves the position of an attitude on telling the truth and living with the truth. But the political system ignores that. If you happen to defend that position, you become the greatest enemy of the Congress.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're always a truth teller in the Congress, and I keep thinking most of it do think about what happens if you have a Thomas Massey, telling the truth, and they totally ignore it, and I don't know what motivates them to fall into the trap of listening to the other side, because the evidence is so strong.
Yeah.
I always wonder why we don't do a better job. If you look at history, the freer a country is, the more prosperous it is, in the least amount of wars.
Yeah.
And we've had spurts of that, but we've been on the side of being involved way too much in wars. And sometimes the success just urges them to do more.
Yeah.
In a way, I think this total acceptance of what we have just done and continue to do in Venezuela. There must be some people in Venezuela that aren't exactly real happy with Venezuela being managed from D.C.
Yeah. And the oil profits being stolen.
Yeah.
But to your point, that's exactly the case of Switzerland. They don't go to war, and they're very, very rich.
There you go.
And it works that way. Well, the other problem for President Trump now is his polls are collapsing, and they continue to. This is an article in Politico. If you go to the next one, a politically impossible situation. New poll shows Trump voters losing patience with the Iran war. Emphasizes the word Trump voters. Half of President Donald Trump's MAGA base thought the Iran war was worth the economic cost in May. Now, just a little more than 1/3 do. The precipitous 13-point drop in just 2 months, according to a new Political poll, reveals how the president's most diehard supporters are starting to agree with the majority of Americans who have long opposed the U.S. involvement in the war. That's that next clip. So he's lost 13 points among his MAGA supporters, and where you had just over 50% supporting it of his top supporters, now it's just over 1/3.
The list was made. I mentioned about the times the president has mentioned, I don't care about that. Even though it sounds significant and it sounds like not the smartest thing to do if you're in politics. I don't care. But just what you reported there, that's what we should care about.
Yeah.
And people are caring about it, and that's why it's reflecting in the polls. So instead of hearing more stories about, I don't care about this. What I care about is ABC. One of these bombs going to drop. They should concentrate on what the people are thinking about. Maybe they care about inflation. What if that's the big issue? What about it? Because if people in the middle class and the poor get hit the hardest because of the inflation is a tax, and these kind of things get taxed, so the wealthy do not suffer, from the taxation, and that's what they should be caring about. And I think we've moved into an era, and there was one congressman not too long ago, was quoted as saying that, we don't have to pay for these wars. Yeah. We don't pay for these wars anymore. And it's almost incestuous that they have this attitude. So I think this whole thing, we should talk about it, but what are they saying? What does the minister say? I don't care about that. But what? Well, okay. Why don't you care about this? This is what the people are caring about. And I think that's essentially what you did with that poll there. To show this is what we should be talking about. Yeah. This is what the people are caring about.
Yeah. And the people are blaming Trump. If you go to that chart from Politico, I think it's maybe 2 ahead. Go one more ahead. Here we go. Here it is, Dr. Paul. A majority of Americans blame the Iran war for gas prices. Now, overall, that's 63% believe it's the war in Iran rather than Trump's tariffs, supply chain disruptions, lack of domestic production, or Trump's handling of the economy. No, they say it's the war in Iran. They're blaming it directly. Now, according to the Harris voters, that's 70%, fine. But with Trump, it's 63. And the most important number here, Dr. Paul, is MAGA voters. 57% of those who identify as MAGA, i.e. the most hardcore Trump supporters, 57% said it's this stupid Iran war that's costing us so much in gas prices. I would be worried if I was Trump.
Well, he probably would be, but can you imagine the difference if he was not up for re-election?
Yeah.
He'd really be, but he still has to be worried, because I don't think he's a short-termer. I don't think he's going to just say, well, I did it and I made a lot of money and it was all clean and it was wonderful and I think I'm going to rest and take a vacation. No way. He wants to be able to influence the world government and the world itself, because he's very confident that he's on the right track.
And he's kind of egotistical as well. That's a big point. Well, I'm going to close out, if you hit that last clip, by reminding everyone, I just noticed we sold some tickets before today's show, but get your tickets front row at the Revolution, September 5th, 2026, by the Dulles Airport near D.C., not in D.C., but near D.C. We're going to have great speakers. We're going to have a great crowd. As always, there is a link in the description if you're with us on Rumble or YouTube. If you're not, go to ronpaulinstitute.org and you'll find a link on the top to get those tickets. And by the way, don't forget, if you qualify, to the Ron Paul 2026 Ron Paul Scholars Seminar. That would mean if you're an upper division undergrad or grad student, or one, have them apply. There are scholarships available. You shouldn't really have any out-of-pocket expenses, and you'll have a whole day of some of the best talks on foreign policy and other issues. And also you'll have an opportunity to network with your top peers and with other intellectuals. So go ahead, and those are two at the top of the Ron Paul Institute page, and they're also in the description. Take action today. You won't regret it. Over to you, Dr.
Very
Paul.
good. And we've been talking about, who cares for what. And I mentioned during the program that the president mentions many times why he doesn't care and what he doesn't care about. And we listed those. And I just want to put in a sentence or two what I care about. I care about personal liberty, because I think it would solve so much of our problem. But it has to be conditioned that you don't try to mold and control and change the system with the use of violence, especially government violence. And I believe that is the way we move in the direction of achieving personal liberty for the maximum amount of people. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.
Thanks for watching the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Like and subscribe to help spread the message. And until next time, live